It's D-Day for Mkhwebane, as she is expected to respond to her draft removal recommendation by the committee. If she fails to respond, the committee will make a final recommendation to the National Assembly. The committee has made scathing findings against Mkhwebane. In its draft report, she has been labelled as grossly negligent, found to have failed to properly apply legal principles, and has forensic weaknesses.
The committee was able to sustain and establish evidence that sustains the misconduct and incompetence charges, whether this is CX, this is Friede, CR17, the Gordon matters, and so you go, as well as issues of incompetence.
At least 4 of Mkhwebane's reports were set aside by the courts in the Bangkok Absa lifeboat matter, commonly known as the CX report. The committee concurred with the Constitutional Court ruling that found Mkhwebane had no right to recommend to Parliament a constitutional amendment to the mandate of the South African Reserve Bank.
Advocate Mkhwebane is guilty of misconduct in that her investigation in the lifeboat matter and the litigation that ensued, she adopted a dismissive, high-handed, biased and procedurally unfair approach in the investigation.
In the SARS investigative unit matter, she was also found to be incompetent.
The majority view was that the investigation of the SARS unit matter was not impartial, open-minded or independent, and it was conducted in an incompetent manner. And the evidence pointed to a predetermined outcome, and also that the investigation was flawed.
Mkhwebane was also found to have committed misconduct in recommending that President Cyril Ramaphosa be investigated for alleged money laundering in the CR17 investigation.
Misconduct there came in the respect of the issue of money laundering, that she questioned the bona fides of the president. And what we did ultimately is really rely on the Concord judgment because the committee was in agreement on the evidence that was provided to the committee, that those findings of misconduct have been established here in terms of CR17.
Meanwhile, Mkhwebane appointed new lawyers last week and says they will have to first study the record of the proceedings before advising her. She also argues that the draft report should not have been issued, as her oral testimony was stopped because of challenges with legal representation. However, the committee says if Mkhwebane fails to respond to the draft report, it will push ahead and compile a final report on Tuesday afternoon. Ulelani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.